Well, hey guys, I didn't expect us to be talking about a new Armored Core so soon, but here we are. For those of you who might not have heard, we just recently got a release of Armored Core Mobile Mission on Steam and the Nintendo Switch. Mobile Mission was the first in a small series of mobile Armored Core games released exclusively in Japan back in the mid-2000s, and due to that regionally limited release, the marketplaces for those old phones disappearing, and Armored Core just generally being a more niche series, all of these mobile games have been considered lost media for a little over a decade now. But a team of Japanese developers working at a company named Gmode have been working on preserving a lot of these older and lesser known mobile games that have been effectively lost to time and releasing them on PC and Switch. And it just so happens that we Armored Core fans recently lucked out and ended up getting one of those lost games restored for us. So over this last week, I've bought myself a copy, sat down, and not only played, but 100%ed Mobile Mission, and I now have a ton of thoughts on the game. So is this old Armored Core mobile game any good? Well, let's talk about it. But before getting too far into the video, I should mention that this is a continuation of a series where I played every single game in the Armored Core franchise for the first time, and reviewed every single one of them as I went along. You don't have to have seen those videos to enjoy this one, but you might enjoy them if you're a fan of the Armored Core series. So for those of you that are interested in checking that out, I'll have a link to the full playlist down in the description. Oh, and for those of you who have been around here for a while, welcome back to a first-timer's journey into Armored Core. But with that out of the way, Armored Core Mobile Mission is a top-down shooter developed and published by fromsoftware for mobile phones in 2004. This is where I would normally give a quick idea of what the story is like, but Mobile Mission doesn't really have any story to talk about. You basically just get thrown into life as a Raven and complete a bunch of missions that have no narrative through-line or connection to one another. So your enjoyment with this one will ultimately be completely reliant on things like the customization and the core gameplay. So let's just get straight into talking about those. And I think we should start with one of the most important things in the Armored Core series, the control scheme. Now, the controls here aren't great, but you definitely get used to them way faster than you do in most Armored Core games. In the new port from Gmode, assuming you're playing on a controller and not a keyboard, you use the left thumbstick or the D-pad to move around, and the right thumbstick to rotate your AC and aim with it. The circle or B button is used to activate your boosters, the cross or the A button is used to fire your selected weapon, and the square or X button is used to activate your laser blade. And finally, the left shoulder button on the controller is used to swap between your right arm weapon and your shoulder weapons. So it's laid out a little weirdly, but you do get used to it pretty quick, and it took me less than an hour to start to really feel comfortable with it, which is probably the fastest that I've ever become comfortable with an Armored Core control scheme, outside of probably Armored Core 6. I think that was a little quicker. Now, the gameplay itself is serviceable. Obviously, it's limited by being released on mobile phones in a pre-smartphone era, but I'll just be straight up by saying that it's a pretty mixed bag. It largely plays like your typical twin-stick shooter, but with a solid sprinkling of Armored Core flavor. You'll be mostly fighting against MTs or other ACs, managing your energy and when to boost versus when not to, collecting more parts and customizing your AC between missions, basically everything you'd expect if you played the early-gen Armored Core games, just in the form of a top-down shooter. Something that's pretty interesting is that flight is actually still a feature here, with players just being able to hold the boosters down without moving to fly straight up into the air. This will allow you to fly over buildings in the environment or dodge enemy projectiles if timed right, which is pretty cool. Other than that though, there isn't a whole lot to talk about in terms of the core gameplay. So let me make up for that by talking about how broken things are due to Mobile Mission's poor balancing. One of the first things that I found in this game that can be pretty easily taken advantage of is that there's no recovery frames after using your laser blade, meaning the only limit to how fast you can dish out damage with it is how much energy your generator is putting out. This allows you to attack with a laser blade up to like 5 times a second with the right build, which of course means you can get some pretty insane damage out of your blade if you play your cards right. Missiles and rockets are also incredibly powerful here just because of how differently this game plays compared to the mainline AC titles. You still have that raw damage potential of the rockets, but instead of struggling to aim them manually on the old gen control scheme, you literally just have to look at the enemy and shoot to easily land it on them. So they've taken the weapon type that was supposed to be a super high damage weapon that was balanced by a very high skill floor and just removed the skill floor, meaning they're now just kind of overpowered. The missiles have also retained their super high damage output, and since their tracking is no longer being affected by all the different angles and movement vectors of a 3D space, they're actually a lot more consistent in terms of their tracking, and I almost never missed with my missiles here. In fact, rockets and missiles were so strong here that I would only ever even use my right arm weapon once I had used up all of the ammo on my shoulder weapons. And even that would only happen on rare occasions, since most of the missions here are insanely short due to being designed for quick little play sessions on your phone. Now, not everything with the gameplay is fun, and some of the frustrations that I have with Mobile Mission are unfortunately tied to very core and important aspects of the overall experience. My biggest gripe with the core gameplay is that this game has an infuriating quirk where anytime you even get close to a piece of level geometry, you either get stuck on it or just straight up bounce off of it. The bouncing off of things was much more common, and unfortunately, was also the more frustrating of the two when you're in the middle of a mission. Now, when I say that it's bouncing, it might not sound that bad, but take a look at this clip here. For the entirety of this clip, I am holding the input to move right. But because I get too close to the building, the game changes that input into moving left, likely to ensure that I don't get stuck on said building. This is a moderate annoyance when you're just traveling through the level, but when it starts to happen to you in the middle of a fight, it can lead to you not only taking more damage than you're supposed to, but also just feeling like you aren't truly in control of your AC. And unfortunately, nearly every single mission in this game takes place in an urban environment, so you'll almost always have buildings and such to be bouncing off of. And while we're on the topic of mission design, I have to say that it's easily at an all-time low for the Armored Core franchise, with every single mission in the game just being some variation of go here, kill this many enemies, get paid. Now, this new port didn't translate the game into English, so I'm sure that none of the text on screen right now means much to the majority of you watching, but let me just tell you that this yellow text here says defeat, insert number here, enemies. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that the success condition for every single mission in the game is just going through the map and clearing out every enemy thrown at you. The only variety on offer comes from a couple of missions in the game that also put a timer on the mission, changing your success condition from kill all enemies to kill all enemies quickly. Don't get me wrong, just going and fighting enemies is a perfectly fine mission archetype. In fact, it's a pretty fun one. But when that's the only mission archetype that you use for all of the game's 21 missions, players are naturally going to find themselves getting bored and wishing that there was something else. Something that is pretty neat though is that some of the missions here are just straight up recreations of missions from Armored Core 1, so players who have a lot of nostalgia for the first game like I do will at least appreciate running into them. Now, during the initial run of this series on the Armored Core games, I ended up gaining a reputation as the arena guy, and luckily for me, Mobile Mission does have an arena. Well, kind of. The way that Mobile Mission approaches the arena is actually fairly similar to how Armored Core 5 would eventually do so, with each of the arena battles just being a shorter mission where all you have to do is defeat your opponent. But something I've said frequently on the channel is that one of the most important aspects of an Armored Core arena is how much personality it gives to your opponents. And unfortunately, Mobile Mission's arena opponents are entirely lacking in personality. When you translate the mission text for the arena fights, you'll find that all they tell you is the name of your opponent's AC and how much you'll be paid if you win. You don't even get to really look at your opponent's build and appreciate their design either, as you don't see them in the menu, and in the gameplay you only see this. This issue then only compounds with how easy it is to defeat an AC in this game thanks to all the poorly balanced tools in your favor, as well as the fact that there are only 4 arena battles in the entire game, leaving me feeling like the developers wanted to include a proper arena here, but just didn't really have the time or resources to actually do so. It's an arena in name alone, which was just really disappointing for me after the excitement that I felt when I initially saw the text Arena Battle 1 at the top of my mission briefing. At the very least though, 9-Ball does make an appearance as the game's final boss, offering the only AC fight in the game that's truly challenging. They don't outright say that it's 9-Ball, but the briefing for the final mission abruptly changes in tone from the others to simply read as, "You've gone too far. You're getting in my way, so I'll get rid of you." And I mean, just look at him and tell me that's not supposed to be 9-Ball. Now, when it comes to making your own AC, things are once again a bit of a mixed bag here. The customization is actually pretty extensive considering the limitations of mobile phones at the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. By Armored Core standards, the part selection is incredibly limited, with this game having the least individual parts to choose from out of any Armored Core game to date. To put this into perspective, the original Armored Core had 138 unique parts, the most limited selection out of any of the mainline series. But here in Armored Core Mobile Mission, we have a grand total of 37 parts on offer. This means that while there is some build variety available here, it's not really much, as there is literally less than 1/4 of the available parts that there were in the original game, and only really a handful of decent builds that you can put together with them. To give you an even better idea of what we're looking at here, I should mention that there are only 3 different leg parts in the entire game, with the selection being 1 pair of bipeds, 1 set of quad legs, and 1 set of tank legs. And until you get 100% completion and have your weight restriction removed, the quad legs might as well be completely useless because of their severely limited weight capacity. These things can carry so little weight that even using the lightest frame parts, you can really only carry 1 weapon with them, limiting your firepower to the point where you'll just run out of ammo on most missions in the game when using them. So when it comes to the leg parts during your initial playthrough, you basically just get to choose if you want to run bipeds or tank legs, and that's it. And as I'm sure most of you already have some experience with building your own ACs, you'll know that the leg parts are typically your most defining piece of your kit, so the variety is extremely limited here. The visual variety in the builds can feel pretty lacking too, not just because of the slim selection of frame parts, but also because of the weapon models. Each weapon class in this game is only using 1 weapon model that was pulled over from Armored Core 1, with each subsequent weapon of that class having stats that reflect their equivalent in AC1, but without the unique models. Instead, they've just recolored the 1 model that they're using. So every single rifle in the game, including some energy rifles, is going to use the same model as that default rifle from AC1, just it's going to be a different color. This really limits the aesthetic potential of your builds, or your armored decor, if you would, which is really disappointing since that's always one of the most fun parts of making your own build in these games. And before someone says it in the comments, yes, this is 100% due to them needing to keep the file sizes as small as possible to release on phones, but it still just sucks. Keeping things rolling though, internal parts like FCS are also just completely absent here, with the only remaining one being the generators. And hilariously, the generators don't even get a model in the menu because if it's not going to be rendered in-game, there's no point in wasting the storage space on them. Even with the generators being included though, there isn't really much customization involved with them, because the 3 generators on offer have a pretty linear progression to them, and once you've gotten a higher end generator, there's no real reason to go back to the older ones, because the newer one is simply just better with little to no trade-off. So internal part customization is functionally completely absent here, and no additions like extensions or anything have been made from the Gen 2 or 3 games. So your builds are, once again, massively simplified compared to the console games. And my final huge gripe with the customization is that the colorization just seems a bit off here. I seriously had a hard time trying to make a good custom paint job for my AC in this game because it just felt like everything was either too saturated or just too dark, and I couldn't really reach that perfect middle ground between vibrant and believable here. I eventually managed to land on a color scheme that I liked well enough, but I never really felt like I loved the paint job on my AC here. So all up, I felt like the customization in this game was really rough, and I just didn't really have a good time making my own ACs. Which is a real shame, because the customization has, at least in my opinion, always been one of, if not Armored Core's greatest strength. So overall, I've been left feeling a bit disappointed by this one. I was super excited to see this game getting preserved, and I think that it's awesome that we're preventing these old mobile games from just being lost to time. But on the other hand, I just didn't enjoy this very much as an Armored Core title. And I know that some people will be saying things like, what did you expect? It's a mobile game. But the last time I covered a mid-2000s mobile game on the channel, it was Metal Gear Solid Mobile, which was released for the same phones that this game was, and was honestly just really damn good at retaining what makes Metal Gear Solid so enjoyable. And the thing is, I didn't even have very high expectations going into this one, as I saw the gameplay trailers and I kind of knew what I was getting into. I think that Mobile Mission could have been a really fun AC game, but there are just a lot of things holding it back, from design decisions to just simple technical problems that the team really should have taken the time to fix. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certainly some fun to be had here, but I just don't feel like it's really worth the current price of 11 USD. Those moments where the game really shines are there, but they're few and far between, and getting 100% completion in this one took me a little over 2 hours of playtime, so it's incredibly light on content as well. Maybe if you're a massive Armored Core fan like I am and just have to have it in your collection and have played it, then sure. But for most players, I would say that you're better off waiting for a sale where you can get it for at least less than $10. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give Armored Core Mobile Mission a 4.2. Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video, and I'm sorry that this wasn't the big triumphant return of the Armored Core series that I'm sure we were all hoping it would be. But hey, at the very least, Gmode has already announced that they're going to also be doing a port of Armored Core Mobile 2, so I'll definitely be checking that out once I get the chance to. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video anyway, and if you did, feel free to leave a like, a subscription, share it with a friend, all those typical things that you do for the algorithm. It really helps me out a lot. And if you really enjoyed it and want to help support me in making more videos like this on the channel, feel free to check out my YouTube memberships or my Patreon, where you can get things like behind the scenes updates, early video access, and more. And as always, a huge thank you to all of you who already do contribute through these platforms. It really goes a long way, and I can't thank you guys enough. With all that being said though, I'm going to let you guys go, so thank you once again for watching, and I hope to see you right back here for whatever it is that we're covering next. Or just the next Armored Core video. Anyway, see you around, guys.